has the right to self-defense. Our focus remains on continuing to use every lever at our disposal to de-escalate the situation on the ground. I think it's also important to remind people Hamas is a terrorist organization. Hamas does not represent the views, the families, the people who are suffering, all of the Palestinian people who are suffering as a result of this violence. But there's no justification for 1,500 rockets coming from Hamas.
OK, well, Nizar Farsakh is a lecturer of international affairs at George Washington University and former advisor to Palestinian President Mahmoud Abbas. He's joining us now from Washington, D.C. Thanks for joining us. The Biden administration, it seems, is maintaining its support for Israel. The plight of Palestinians doesn't seem to be a priority for this new administration, does it?
Unfortunately not, and that's not different from other administrations. What I would add is that this administration specifically, its priorities are domestic, and it was not prepared for this to face a crisis in the Middle East. It was working on stabilizing all the foreign issues so that it can focus on the domestic issues. And now it finds itself mired in this situation. So they're just resorting to business as usual, which is the U.S. administration supporting Israel regardless of the human toll on the Palestinians.
Yeah, I mean, there seems to be also lots of talk elsewhere of a sort of two-state solution. But surely, I mean, that can't be an answer with Israel's push for more settlements. So what is?
Yeah, that's true. And in fact, the current Israeli Prime Minister, Netanyahu, in 4 elections ago, and he got elected 3 times later, he ran on a ticket specifically saying that there will not be a Palestinian state on his watch. And he was elected on that basis. So as far as the Palestinians are concerned, the Israeli democracy has voted against the two-state solution. Different Israeli governments have suggested a truncated state, a state with sovereignty minus. And of course, that's a non-starter for Palestinians. Palestinians want a fully sovereign, independent state that is viable with East Jerusalem as its capital, with very friendly and very strong relations with Israel for sure, but definitely completely independent. And that doesn't seem, not only does it not seem in the works, but with this government and the right-wing coalition that it has, its program is specifically to have the entirety of the land for Israeli Jews and for the preferential treatment of Jews over non-Jews in general across the territory, whether Israel proper or the occupied territories.
I want to also ask you just about the Palestinian leadership. As a former advisor to Mr. Abbas, with all due respect, he's 85. He was supposed to only be in power for 4 years. It's been 16 years beyond that. Is he out of touch, do you think, with this generation of younger Palestinians and what they want?
Yes, he definitely is of the old guard. But even if it were somebody else that was younger, the challenge is that his political party has invested all its chips in the two-state solution, and they literally do not have a partner on the Israeli side. So as far as the Palestinian electorate are concerned, they don't know why they would vote for the party that is seeking a solution that's not accepted by the other side. And therefore, the popularity of Hamas, or at least the popularity of either the one-state solution or the resort to violence, is growing because the Palestinian public is seeing that what not only Mahmoud Abbas, but other leaders from that political party, Fatah, that is calling for a two-state solution, are not in touch with what is practically possible, at least from the perspective of the Palestinian public.
So a new approach is needed. Does it need to come from the Palestinians or the international community?
It can come from any place. The more urgent order of business is stopping the killing, for sure. What started all of this was an aggressive push by the Israeli government to cleanse Jerusalem from its Arab population. The issue of Sheikh Jarrah has been an issue for decades. And the latest court decision to evict 37 families from Sheikh Jarrah was seen by Palestinians as an escalation that was very dangerous and a foreboding for more to come. And that's why they rose in an uprising, because they wanted to stop that. And then the further offensive aggression at the third holiest site in Islam, the Aqsa Mosque, actually having the Israeli soldiers going inside the Aqsa Mosque and throwing hand grenades on people who are praying. That provocation alarmed a lot of Palestinians and made them feel that the Israeli government, and I want to make the distinction between the Israeli government and the Israeli people. This Israeli government has a very aggressive agenda, and therefore they wanted to deter it. And Hamas is trying to show the Palestinians that its way of dealing with Israel is the more effective way than diplomacy and negotiations. It's really up to Israel to show what approach is it going to be responsive to? Is it going to respond to violence the way it did with withdrawing from Lebanon and withdrawing from Gaza? Or is it going to respond to diplomacy and negotiations and actually take policies on the ground that protect Palestinians and not Jewish settlers and Jewish radicals, and actually take steps on the ground that create the possibility of a Palestinian state? Because as to this day or to this moment, this Israeli government is showing no signs that it's interested in a completely viable, independent Palestinian state.
OK, Nizar Farsakh, thanks so much for joining us on the programme. We appreciate your thoughts. Thank you.